So raise your hand if you like change and are always looking for ways to facilitate it. There's a few of you. Now raise your hand if you tend to resist change. If you have that attitude, if it ain't broke, then just leave it alone. How about raising your hand if you welcome change only if you don't have to change in order to allow it to be in your life? Or if you believe that change, and this is often where we get, that by changing it will somehow make the pain, the fear, the worry, the sadness go away. Then we're like, okay, if we get to that point, maybe. Raise your hand if you find yourself resisting change in certain areas of your life, even though you know deep within you that change is inevitable. It's the one constant, observable truth. I found myself like, yeah, I'll change once you show me that it's worth making that effort to change. But change is the very essence of God. And when we're resisting change, we're resisting God. Can you hear that? When we're fighting against the flow of what seems to want to be unfolding in our life, it's not that we're just resisting that activity. We're actually resisting the very essence and energy of that which we call God. Because change is the one constant that has always been from the very beginning and will always be in the universe, in earth, in all living things. Certainly in this material world, we observe change. Sometimes it happens very slowly, sometimes it happens like an instant, but there is always change happening. So today we're exploring the law of circulation as we continue this series that we've been doing for several weeks around abundance. And Derek Rydall, author of The Abundant Project, writes this. He says, the law of circulation is a foundational principle in all areas of life. We know this by observation in the material world. Any body of water that has no inlet or outlet becomes a swamp that very little can grow. If electricity doesn't circulate, if there's a broken circuit somewhere in there, then it can't power anything. If oxygen or our blood or any major body substance doesn't circulate in our body, disease or even death unfolds. And this same principle applies to every area of our life. If love or joy or intelligence or wisdom or gratitude doesn't circulate in our lives, it diminishes and it dries up. You can't just store things up. You can't just give things away. You can't just receive, and you can't just take. You need this complete circuit in order to grow and to live and to thrive and to prosper. There are three important components, at least according to the author in his lens of abundance, necessary to consciously understand and apply this law of circulation. The first is that you can't give what you don't have. Seems logical, at least in the material world, we kind of know this. You can't give someone chocolate if you don't have any chocolate. You can't share an apple unless you've somehow received an apple first. But when it comes to our mental and our emotional and even our spiritual life, we often act as if we can override that law. That somehow it doesn't apply when it comes to those inner aspects of life. It only applies out there in the material. Many people, and I'm going to speak especially to women, because this tends to show up more, we've been trained more in this, tend to give their love, their loyalty, their devotion to someone or to a job or even to their spiritual practice, rarely asking for anything in return or receiving anything in return, and even more rarely giving what they need to themselves. For a while, it might seem to pay off. We're in this wonderful, generous giving mode in our relationship, and the one or the employer who's receiving it might love it and even reward you at first. But eventually, if it's this one-way flow, an imbalance will manifest. You've probably experienced this, both maybe on one end or the other. Often it builds and then it explodes in some dramatic or destructive way. Whether that's the onset of depression or addiction, or ultimately a breakdown in our bodies or in our careers or in our bank accounts or in our relationship. In some way, there comes a point where unless that flow is happening, it's going to dry up. It's going to cause the swamp to start to show up in its place. At the core is usually a message that we got at a young age that asking for what we wanted, doing what brought us joy, or taking care of ourselves was a bad thing. We began to hear that when we asked for that, we were selfish, or that we were somehow wrong in demanding what we wanted over and above somebody else's needs. I got a very clear message in a lot of my shadow work that I've been doing. One of my messages that I've really had to work long and hard, and I'm still in the process of healing, is other people's needs are more important than your own. So whenever my needs showed up and somebody else had a greater need, and trust me, when you're in ministry, there's always somebody else that has a greater need, that somehow the flow was one way. So developing this consciousness of receiving, of having, that is in balance with giving, is the key, at least one of them, to be in that natural flow of circulation. This is why the gift of giving to yourself, we talked about that last week as one of those areas that we're often blind to, but to give to ourselves is so important. Sometimes we can't get it from others, or at least from the source that we'd like to get it from, but we can always, if we're willing, find a way to give it to ourselves. Anything that you feel is lacking in your life, you can bring it into your experience. And the best way to do that, the quickest way to do that, is to give it to yourself, whether that's love or value or respect or appreciation. All of those things you might be complaining about aren't flowing to you. You begin to be that as a natural attractor. The second component is that you can't keep what you don't give. As you begin to live more in this state of having, you now have something to give. And your essential nature is actually to give, whether it's your gifts or your talents or your treasure, your spiritual qualities, and to give them unconditionally. This is often the place, at least I've observed in my life, where I get out of alignment with this law of circulation, because our motivation, whether it's conscious or unconscious, is to give in order to get. If I give you this, the expectation is, if I do something nice for you, you're going to give me appreciation in return. You're going to give me gratitude or respect in return. So if we're giving for any other reason than just to give, just out of this expression of being in this divine flow, then we're trying actually to manipulate the law. And we end up creating a greater sense of lack and separation. Think about this. A tree doesn't give its fruits to get money. The people may pick them to do that, but the tree itself is creating the fruit because that's what it's designed to do. That's its natural expression. And so it's true with each of us too, that we're designed to be this giver to life, to share whatever is unique as an expression of our individual blessing into the world. Imagine then if an apple tree doesn't let go of its fruits. Let's just say, nope, I'm not sure if I'm gonna, be hungry a little later, so I'm just gonna hold on to these fruits for as long as I can. It rots eventually on the tree. It blocks that flow of life, and if nothing else, it doesn't allow it to produce any more fruit because there's nowhere else for it to grow. And when we withhold, whether it's waiting for the right circumstances to show up or waiting until it looks a certain way before we would and feels a certain level of safety, or we're already receiving it until we begin to give it, waiting to share our financial good until we have enough, whatever that is, waiting to step into new territory until we feel fully prepared. Here's a clue: you never will. Or safe in order to step into where we're being called, to give back into life. This awareness really brought a sense of light onto a scripture that I had long puzzled over. It seems so unlike Jesus and many of his other teachings on the Sermon on the Mount, but in Matthew 13 he says, "Whoever has will be given more, and they will have abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have, will be taken." It was always puzzling for me, but it's really about how are we in the flow. And the more we're in a flow, it's almost like the universe, God, Spirit, says, here's a channel. Here's a channel that's really flowing. I'm going to flow more into that channel because it has this ability to express and keep flowing out into the world. When our giving and receiving channels are diminished, it's a little bit like all that is flowing eventually just seems to dry up. So the author suggests a great place to play with this is in our relationships. Because oftentimes it feels like there's an imbalance sometimes in our relationships, that we're either giving more than we're getting, or we're receiving more than we're giving. And the invitation is to just start to notice where we find, either in our mind or coming out of our mouths, chronic complaints about a relationship that we have. It might be a partner, but it might be our children, it might be coworkers. In those day-to-day relationships, listen to what it's saying of, they never listen to me, they don't appreciate me, they don't respect me, they don't value my interests, whatever it might be. And then give them those exact things. Give more of it. If they don't respect you, then look at the ways where you might not be respecting them. You notice that they're being really judgmental with you? Ask yourself, how am I judging them right now? And see if you can let that go to the side and show up as a non-judgmental presence. It's a really good practice to do with children in our life. We often complain that our kids don't listen or don't respect us or don't appreciate all that we do for them. I know my child has heard that a few times come out of my mouth. And yet when we look closer, we're usually doing the same thing to them. We're doing our best, sure, to love them or to take care of them, but do we really respect them as a unique expression of life? Do we really listen to and appreciate them? Not from the paradigm of what they should or shouldn't be, rather from theirs. Do we take the time to understand them? In this particular aspect of the law of circulation, it's to give away whatever you want more of. That's what accelerates and expands that in our life. So we have to be willing to fill ourselves up, and then we also have to be willing to be in that flow of giving it back out again, especially in the areas that really resonate with us. It's not a you do this and I do that in return. It is I'm here to be in that flow, and I'm here to give myself what it is that I need most in these moments. So as we move into a time of inward reflection and meditation, I'm going to ask that you, as you get quiet, to give that same gift of deep listening to your spirit. As you perhaps close your eyes or just become aware of the breath as it's moving in and out of your body. Setting aside whatever you might be holding on to, physically or in mind, for just these next few moments. To give yourself the gift of connection, of openness to the wisdom that resides within you when we take the time to allow it to emerge, to value it, to respect it. And just be with the question as you listen. Where is it in life that I am not receiving what I need from the outer channels that is called for me to give to myself? Or perhaps to look at what is it that I want more of, that I am being called to give into the world to increase that flow of circulation. And simply just listen. An idea, a thought, a feeling, a vision may arise, or it may just be a time just to be present with yourself. Presence in you. And if arises in this moment, make a commitment to yourself and to the world to start receiving and or giving it on this day. Feel that divine flow of life with each breath in, filling your physical body, enlivening your spirit, opening your heart. And imagine as you take that breath out how it blesses the world just by your very presence. And then draw that breath in again. And just take a moment to be in that space of gratitude for all that is in this moment, all the blessings that are a part of life right now. Gratitude is that energy that's closest to abundance. So the more we can be grateful for all of life's gifts and challenges, we become an even greater channel of God's love, of God's light, of God's abundance in our world. And whenever you're ready, you can begin to bring your attention back to this time and to this space, to the awareness of the seat that supports you, the sounds in the room, maybe even wiggling your toes and fingers. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. So here's the last component of this law. You can probably guess what it is. You can't sustain what you don't receive. So it is we have to receive, we have to give it out, and then we have to be willing to receive it again in order to have that flow move through us with greater ease. Giving to yourself and others isn't enough to fully activate this law of circulation, because it's not a complete circuit until you once again are in that space to be filled up. And this step is about noticing and receiving all of the blessings around you. This is another way you can always fill yourself up. Whether it's a smile from a stranger, or the sun on your skin, or a home that shelters you, even being humble enough to ask for help and then graciously receive it. When we're in this space, we begin to understand that all of life is here for you. It is loving you. It is asking you to step into this flow of divine love in greater and greater ways. And if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't breathe it in, then you don't fully complete the circuit. How comfortable are you when you are publicly loved, honored, respected, complimented, or noticed in any positive way? How often we go, oh, this whole thing, or, oh, it was nothing. So-and-so really was the person who helped on that. If we aren't willing to receive that, we negate the flow. So it's about both. It's both and. How often do you stop and take a break from all the doing and take a moment to just be, to smell and appreciate the roses, to appreciate the food that we ingest, to appreciate that we can take a shower? Trust me, when your water goes out for 4 or 5 days, you realize what a true blessing it is to have a shower with hot water. Take a moment in those what seem like mundane and often even tedious tasks of life to notice and appreciate all of the unique beings, all of the beautiful opportunities we have to be in this divine flow of life. So that's the invitation this week, and not just this week and the weeks to come, to create that space to listen to what we need, to give ourselves that gift, whether it's something we can do for and by ourselves, or whether we reach out and we ask and appreciate when others support us in what we need, and to circulate it back to others. When we create the space to listen and to see and to just be. I don't know if you've ever had those moments in your life where life just seems to flow effortlessly, just like the breath does. And we discover that we can be grateful for it all. Now, we are so grateful and blessed by the ways in which you share of your financial good with this ministry. This is our opportunity to share. It is amazing in the ways in which all that we need will show up, right when we need it to show up. And we are blessed to have you as some of the channels. We open ourselves to all of the channels in which to receive our good, and know that we are always in that flow as a community because we give out each month. We give back out into the community. All the gifts that come in here, we tithe back to various different community supports that we want to see more of, that we want to see grow, that we know are making a positive difference in our world. So let us take what we offer or just hold that energy of what we give electronically in our hands and in our hearts and join together and bless it. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God.
Why don't we stand up first, then join hands, and we'll do our peace song.
So as we go into this week in that divine flow of circulation, of abundance, of safe and happy trick-or-treating, we go knowing our prayer for protection. We'll do it as a call and a response. As soon as we get it up on the screen. There we go. Oh, no, there we go. The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the love of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Together, wherever we are, God is, and all is well. All right.